Spain will hit Russia 2018 reborn and reinvigorated, symbolized by young star Isco. With speed, smarts and creativity.
The past.
My name is Lord Gibson.
The present.
Father, forgive me, for I have sinned.
And the future.
Sister Judith, who are my parents?
What is it again?
Have an appointment with the Gibsons.
Honey, please.
All his enemies are going to turn against us, and they're going to be starting with you.
You guys are just too stupid to know that she was sleeping with Daddy.
So, what family name was given to the child?
Child trafficker. You smuggler. I will blow your cover.
And this is just the beginning. Sadia is coming home.
I am going to kill my husband.
Sadia.
Sadia shows Mondays and Tuesdays, 8 p.m.
So we have details of these and more, including sports, business, and of course, entertainment in the next 1 hour. Do stay with us. Now on to our very first story. And 138 journalists and 22 media organizations were targets and victims of violations recorded in 14 West African countries. According to a report from the Media Foundation for West Africa, security agents representing 71% top the list of perpetrators recorded against journalists in those countries.
Killing, physical attacks, interrogation, threats, arrest and detention were among the types of violations recorded from January 2017 to April 2018. Nigeria, Guinea and Ghana topped the list of 14 West African countries with recorded violations. Security agents, state and state officials and organized groups were the first 3 on the list of the perpetrators recorded.
If the security services who are tasked to promote the rights and protect the rights of everybody, including journalists, are seen to be the ones who are perpetrating these attacks on journalists, then I think that it is not a good picture. Would the attacks come as a result of the journalists doing their work and misunderstanding between the procedures of security agencies as well as the media? Those are areas that we need to further integrate and see how these issues can be addressed.
We need to let them understand us better, and we need to also understand them better. We need to understand the parameters of each other's work, and that is the way I believe we can minimize the incidence of attacks that happen on journalists.
Press freedom, safety of journalists, and the journalistic landscape in West Africa are faced with several challenges. But where does the media draw the line so as not to infringe on the rights of others?
Journalists, certainly professional journalists, need to be trained in what are the rules, and you know how that's mediated depends a lot on the journalism environment generally, right? So it's a matter of journalistic ethics that I think most journalists should abide by. It's important for journalism as a whole to have mechanisms to deal with those kind of complaints.
And has press freedom become a rhetoric?
There have been some considerable improvement. We are not where we would want to be, but then of course we have to continue to work at it, and that is why we must continue to have the conversations. We shouldn't be discouraged.
Ahead of the World Press Freedom Day, Media Foundation for West Africa, MFWA, convened a regional strategic meeting with the heads of all MFWA national partner organizations from 16 countries. Challenges to press freedom and the safety of journalists in West Africa and how to tackle them were addressed, with an aim to strengthen partnerships and to share knowledge.
Meanwhile, the Africa Center for Security and Counter-Terrorism is pushing for an end to police brutality on journalists. Now, this year alone, journalists from Adom FM and TV3 have been attacked by police in their line of duty. As the world marks World Press Freedom Day, the Africa Center for Security and Counterterrorism is pushing through a petition to end all forms of violence and brutalities against journalists in their line of duty. So, joining me in the studio is Emmanuel Kuting. He is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Security and Counterterrorism. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Kuting.
Thank you for having me.
In this country, we pride ourselves and also internationally as being very, we are ranked high in terms of press freedom. Are we deserving of this accolade when we see these instances with police brutality on journalists?
In fact, if you look at Ghana's soft power in the international community, it is anchored on freedom of human rights and the freedom of the press. But you realize that in recent times we have had skirmishes of police attacking journalists. And you see, it's a subculture within the police service. It started somewhere from innocent citizens, and now it's creeping into the public domain that don't mean personalities than media men and women. And it is also affecting our celebrities as well. If you recall, last week, Kweku Menu, one of the Kumewu big stars, was attacked by the police. And I think that is something we need to take cognizance and stamp it once and for all. If you look at what is happening now, it is denting the international reputation of Ghana. And don't take it for granted. We didn't just develop this soft power on a silver platter. If you look at what is happening in Ghana today, we are hosting the International Press Freedom Day. Right. And these are all anchored on our track record. So we don't need to sit down and let those hard work that has been anchored over the period
of course,
go down the
it doesn't look good, especially when we are hosting the world here, you know, and then we are having instances of this. Would you say there is bad blood between the police and journalists?
Not at all. I think that it's just some few bad nuts within the service, and the majority are not able to stand on their grounds and get them out. And they are always protective of this bad note. And I was at a program recently. Then a police personnel called. He wanted to be anonymous. And he said it's a subculture within the service. And the police are not able to police themselves. For instance, he claimed he's an MTTU person. When he's taxed to go on the road, he's asked to bring 400 Ghana cedi every week. Meanwhile, he's not been given any tomatoes or onions to go and sell. So we as an organization, we feel that it is high time we sensitize Ghanaians, because a philosopher once said that bad things begin to happen when good people refuse to act. So the time for us to act is now. So we have this campaign that say no to police brutalities. Police are our friends.
I understand you are gathering signatures to petition the top police hierarchy.
Yes, we want to petition the IGP, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Amnesty International, the Speaker of Parliament, and if possible, certain diplomatic missions in Ghana. We want this to be a national issue, because there is no way any journalist, given the hazards of the job, should ever be attacked by any other person than the police who are supposed to be protecting them. And you remember your own colleague, Godfred Tinam, had his first share last 2 weeks. And Latif is fighting for his life. So the problem is that when some of these things happen, what reparation do we get for the victims? So we want to seek justice for every innocent citizen that had fallen victim to any form of police brutality.
So apart from seeking justice for victims in this petition, are you also looking at some education for the police force to understand the relationship that should exist between journalists and I mean, even citizens and themselves?
Precisely. That is even the input of the campaign. Apart from the justice we are seeking, we'll collate the narratives of these victims and we'll make it in the form of a manual, partner the police service in their retooling of the Inspector General of Police DAPT program, the transformation agenda of the Ghana Police Service, and also organize sensitization programs to educate the citizenry to know that, look, the police are our friends and not our enemies. And you see, if we don't rekindle that trust, there is no way things are going to get better. Because if, for instance, in my case, I just asked a police a question and I was brutalized. I was assaulted, beaten to pulp. So you can imagine if you have very sensitive information that can help the police in combating crime, will you go out? You wouldn't.
Thank you very much,
And I think
Mr.
that it's high time we
afraid,
look at how we can do this.
I'm afraid we have to end it here, but thank you so much for coming to the studio and speaking with us. Emmanuel Kuting is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Security and Counter-Terrorism. Well, still in the news, residents of Gukpe-Gutua in Tamale in the northern region continue to drink unwholesome water as they lack access to potable drinking water. The residents want at least the dredging of their long-aged dugout, which is filled up, hence producing muddy water. Reports by Zubeida Ismail.
Gukpe-Gutua, a suburb of Tamale, is located on the Tamale-Yendi Highway. It is 10 minutes drive from the business district. However, the over 5,000 residents lack potable water. The situation compelled residents to rely on unwholesome water sources for their livelihood. But now the water source has been contaminated by mud, a development that has forced residents to abandon it. They now depend on water from these pits. School children have to spend more time in search of water, domestic chores including bathing.
I will get up 5 o'clock and come here. Before I will get this water, maybe 6 or 7. Later I will go to school, I will be late.
We don't have sources of water here. Only this dump we are using. All around the community, including Vitim and all around this area. This water we are using for so many years.
Although the community has 3 boreholes constructed by some non-governmental organizations, the facilities do not produce enough water. They want city authorities to come to their aid.
For residents here, all they ask for is good drinking water, or a Samaritan who will come and dredge the dugout right behind me for them until they are able to get pipe-borne water.
Zubeida Ismail, TV3, Gukpe-Gutua.
An estimated 10% of graduates find jobs after their first year of completing school, while it may take 10 years for a larger number of graduates in Ghana to secure employment. In the following report, Portia Gabo highlights the plight of the unemployed graduate.
Every year, thousands of students graduate from tertiary institutions across the country, hoping to secure employment immediately after school. They are, however, faced with the stark reality that the transition from school to work could take years to accomplish, prompting many to seek answers, even if it means dedicating time to seek favor from their maker. That's the story of Rebecca, 5 years after completing the Christian University College, Rebecca is still jobless. Her only solace now is to join dozens of job seekers and worshippers at the Chimota Forest in Accra to pray, hoping that help will come one day.
We pray and receive the answers from God. So it's the reason why we are here. If you have a problem, you can come to God. Because the Bible says, He said, who is suffer? Who is riding? Come to me. I will give you rest. According to Matthew.
Rebecca has a degree in human resource management at the Christian Service University College and wonders why she's still unemployed.
Sitting at the house, sleeping, thinking, then I prefer coming here to pray. Maybe God will listen to me one day.
But have you written application letters?
So many application letters to government institutions and private institutions. So I'm waiting. Maybe one day God will listen to me.
So we asked the human resource management consultant what exactly the problem is and what could be the reason for Rebecca's predicament.
Her situation is unfortunate, but I could see many people in this country have similar plights. It's not just the graduates. So if 24% have education, such as she has, and she remains unemployed for 5 years, it gives you a picture that we are in a very difficult situation where people have paid good monies. Parents believe that once you get your ward educated, there are vast opportunities for that individual. Waiting for 5 years and not getting employment. But sometimes I must be very quick in adding that others have not received employment because their efforts has been minimal.
Graduate unemployment has been a national issue as governments over the years have attempted to deal with the situation with some interventions. In 2017, the Charismatic Bishops' Conference enumerated some interventions that governments could explore to deal with the problem.
And if we can revive the poultry industry, it will employ several millions. We've also suggested that build the roots of Ghana practically with concrete. There's a lot of manual labor in this country, and we can employ that in building concrete roads, in casting concrete. By doing that, we'll be able to employ the mass number of people. We can see productivity. Then they don't have to tend to God to solve problems that God has given us the power to be able to solve.
With the launch of the Nation Builders Corps, government intends to employ about 100,000 unemployed graduates to address the unemployment situation in the country. Unemployed graduates like Rebecca, who have been at home for years, could take advantage of the program. And could government intervention be the answer to Rebecca's incessant prayers?
So let's still stay on the issue of press freedom. The 2018 World Press Freedom Day has been launched in Accra. This year's global theme is keeping power in check, media, justice, and the rule of law, and will cover issues of media and the transparency of the political process, the independence and media literacy of the judicial system. So my colleague, Catherine Frimpoma, is at a program at Kempinski Hotel. Hello, Catherine.
Session is actually over. We also had a plenary session. Currently, participants are out for lunch, but participants have been deliberating on the theme, keeping power in check, media justice and the rule of law. All the key speakers have been speaking on this theme and what Africa and the world can actually do to promote justice and the rule of law in our practice as journalists. But UNESCO was also worried about the unsafe environment for journalists across the world, and also things that Ghana can actually do more when it comes to safety for journalists in the country, as well as calling on other government and stakeholders across the world to promote the safety for female and male journalists across the world. But I have with me the Deputy Minister for Information in the person of Kojo Ponkroma to tell us how the opening has been and what to expect in the next 3 days. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Very well. One key thing that struck me was in your minister's address, he said so many things. The fact that fake news is taking over now and some politicians are using it for propaganda and all that, and what government would do to try and keep that in check in the country. And also the fact that the Right to Information Bill, which everybody is anticipating for its passage, will be looked at when Parliament resumes, which is this month. But how feasible is that? Because we know that last week the bill was withdrawn and relayed, and the committee is now working on it.
Yes, so on the Right to Information Bill, it was laid before Parliament went on recess under a certificate of urgency. And when the Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs looked at it, the committee was of the view, and this is a joint committee, Constitutional, Legal, and then Communication. The committee was of the view that because of the number of petitions that have been received from several groups that have interest in the bill, we cannot go ahead and pass it under a certificate of urgency with a claim that it's an old bill and everybody has seen it already. There are new petitions that have come and therefore need to be looked at. So it's important to go through the normal process. Therefore, it's important to bring a gazetted version of the bill. And that's why we did a swap to take the ungazetted version and to lay a gazetted version. And when Parliament resumes this May, it's one of the very quick items that are, that is to be considered for very quick passage.
But why did the executive lay a bill that has not been gazetted?
Because the executive wanted it passed under a certificate of urgency with the view that it's a bill that we have seen, that we have gone through, that we are comfortable with. It's been around for about 17 years now. So let's just go through it and pass it. But there's still a lot of interest. People are bringing new issues up, and it's important to give those people an opportunity to be heard. But like you said, Minister Hamid also spoke about some of the challenges that press freedom faces. While we are seeking to protect journalists some more, promote press freedom, there are also risks. People who deliberately use the media space to misinform, and what he described as the inadvertent misinformation that sometimes happens, which is often not corrected and creates a negative impression. Indeed, this RTI bill you are talking about, I saw other media networks report that the bill had been withdrawn, but did not say that it had been withdrawn and relayed and explained the technicalities behind it. Now, that obviously is an inadvertent misreportage. And his point is that if we don't watch all of these things, violence against journalists, risks that journalists face, deliberate misreportage, inadvertent misreportage, all of these things, if we don't watch it, we will inhibit the press freedom that we are trying to promote.
UNESCO thinks that Ghana can do more when it comes to protection and safety of journalists in the country. What specific measures do you consider putting in place to ensure that?
Well, that's the essence of this conversation. And so the entire conversation where the world gathers here, and there are principal Ghanaian journalists like yourself, others who are here, to help us think through some of these ideas. What do we need to do to protect journalists some more? You may say in one breath, and you just saw my friend Latif Idris at the back there, who is been injured after attack by police persons, which is being investigated by the police administration itself. You may say generally that the state will not condone it, and if an officer does such a wrong, that officer ought to be punished. But can we go further and offer some more protections to journalists? Those are the conversations we are having here, and all views are welcome.
Okay, so in wrapping up, what do you expect in the next 2 days with regards to this conference?
The exciting thing about this conference is that the global community of media practitioners is forming its thoughts on how to tackle some of the major opportunities and challenges ahead of us. And all of us have an opportunity to make an input into those thoughts. And I encourage journalists here in Ghana in particular to take an interest, participate, and bring your ideas on board.
Thank you very much. And that was Kojo Ponkroma, Deputy Minister for Information, bringing us up to speed on happenings here at the Kempinski Hotel regards World Press Freedom Day being launched held here in Accra. For the next 3 days, Ghana is hosting the whole world when it comes to media, networking, and then a whole lot is going to happen. But keep watching TV3 as we will keep you posted on all the happenings that has to do with conference. From the Kempinski Hotel here in Accra, Catherine from Poma TV3 News.
Many thanks to you, Catherine, for that report there. Now let's still stay with the issues surrounding the press, and this time on fake news. Now, a debut study by Pen Plus Byte on fake news in Ghana has shown that the Ghanaian media landscape does not have systems, budgets, or trained personnel dedicated to combat the menace of fake news. So, joining me in the studio is Kwame Ahiabenu, and he is the Executive Director of Pen Plus Byte. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Ahiabenu.
Yeah, thanks and good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you. Now, the issue of fake news, I mean, social media is big. when it comes to the issue of fake news. And social media, I mean, we really can't regulate it that much. So can we really deal with the issue of fake news?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that fake news is not threatening the work we do as journalists, as institutions, because people are losing trust. Largely because traditionally people tend to radio, TV, and newspapers for news and content. However, today we have new digital technologies which are being used not only by other content generators but also traditional media. We are at this point that people are now losing trust in some of these institutions, some of this content, in the sense that people can trust when you give them information which they can rely on. But people are creating information which is not true, which is fake. In that sense, people don't want to trust the information they're consuming. Largely because everybody can create content. Right. Formerly, you needed to have a TV station, you needed to have a newspaper, you needed to have a radio station. But today, once you have access to the internet, you can create content and people can consume that content. Now we need to look at how we can deal with fake news, in the sense that if we don't, it's going to threaten the very foundation of democracy as we have it. Because media have a key role to play in to ensure that we have a sustainable democratic system. Now, to your question, we can do certain things about it. One of them is self-regulation. The point is that if we don't self-regulate the fake news, what's going to happen is that the government may be forced to step in.
What do you mean by self-regulation?
Self-regulation is that some of the content that people put out there, they know that it's not true. But however, they put those content out. Self-regulation means that as professionals, and this refers to traditional media, we are binded by our ethics to ensure that content we put out there is not fake. So that's where self-regulation comes. But this will not be applicable to anybody who have access to the internet and they are pushing content. Another way of dealing with the issue is about the use of technology. Now, if technology that allows us that we can actually look at trends of certain content coming from certain places which are fake, now people will now realize that, like a ranking system, you are zero because we cannot rely on that content. There's also talk about government stepping in. Malaysia is only one of the few countries in the world that have a law against fake news. When you post fake news in Malaysia, you get thrown into jail. But the challenge with using regulation is that who determines what is fake? If maybe you are a journalist and the government does not like the content you are pushing, they can declare your content fake. So there's a balancing act about how do we ensure that we can use certain system in place to ensure news is controlled. No, so at the same time, we don't regulate freedom of speech.
Right, so in certain countries like China, the social media is regulated. Would you say that that would be a good way of checking fake news?
No, it's not a good way because it's very expensive. So China is spending a lot of resources ensuring that every content is put out there.
But if it's important to them and they are getting the results, it's expensive.
But you have to understand that if you start regulating content, who decides that this content is fake or otherwise? Who is the big brother deciding that? And research has shown that it's very difficult to leave that in the hands of a government. That's why we have freedom of expression. However, we need to balance that with responsibility. We need to balance that with people putting up their best behavior. And what we need to do is that we should not negate the fact that there are no laws that can actually go after people because if you defame me, for example, I can take you to court. So yes, there are certain laws, but we need to balance that with freedom of speech. So we will tend to be at the end of freedom rather than to call for regulation.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Kwame Ahia-Benu. He is the Executive Director of Pen Plus. That's quite a mouthful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks very much for having me.
You're watching Midday Live on TV3. We'll be right back.
I can move, right?
We all wish to have the perfect balance between work and the people that matter most to us. So, we are always on the quest to find ways to make this possible. With the many innovative and dynamic features that the UMB mobile banking app, UMB Speed Up, offers, you get the time-saving convenience to help create this balance. You can transfer money, pay bills, apply for a loan, invest money, and do so much more right on your phone with the UMB mobile banking app. So, you can spend more time with those that matter most to you. The UMB mobile banking app, UMB Speed Up, lets you bank conveniently anywhere and everywhere so that you can enjoy more time with those that you love and doing what you love most. We're good to go. UMB Speed Up, Digibank, let's go!
It's time to make a difference. Do not go for a degree that makes you just one of the rest. With over 50 years experience, Ghana Christian University College is a trusted partner to deliver education to secure your future. Enroll now for degree, HND and professional programs in accounting, banking and finance, human resource management, HIV/AIDS management, nursing, computer engineering, IT and systems, and theology, among others. Get up to 50% scholarship on our programs. For further information, call 0204-069-583 or 5765-33307 or apply online at ghanacu.com. Ghana CU, advancing excellence in transformational leadership.
This is how you take on the world. This is where you connect to the nation.
We are ready to take over and thrive.
But is that the case?
See for them to gain communications.
This is what reliable news is all about. And this is where it all begins. This is who we are.
I am Solis Rose Korting.
I am Isamon.
I am Natalie Fort.
My name is Alfred Okamsing.
News 360 every night, 7 p.m. only on TV3. It is brought to you by MTN, Universal Merchant Bank.
You're welcome back to the Midday News. Now let's look at some business. And the Bank of Ghana's new Ghana reference rate for May 2018 is 16.74%. Now the rate is the reference by which commercial banks will set their interest on loans granted to customers at least for this month. Now the figure is lower compared to their quota for April, which stood at 16.82%.
Introduced in April this year, the Ghana reference rate is a new mechanism to help in the calculation of interest rates on loans issued by commercial banks. The new figure of 16.74% is a 0.8% drop from the 16.82% posted for April. In percentage terms, the figure dropped marginally by 0.47% between the one-month period. Per the new reference rate system, the interest rate that a customer will be expected to pay on credit he or she takes from his or her bank compared to other clients could either be higher or lower. This is because the bank will adjust its rate by either adding or subtracting the client in question's risk premium to the reference rate. The Bank of Ghana is hopeful that a new rate will help address the challenges associated with high interest rates, which have resulted in rising non-performing loans among commercial banks.
Also in the news, banking consultant Richmond Etuahene says calls for a merger of local banks which are unable to meet the minimum capital requirement is not the solution to the problems facing the banking sector, given that each bank has different structures. In his view, a merger as a financial tool does not always produce the desired results due to incompatibility of partners which could occur after the merger.
The Council of State advised indigenous banks which cannot meet the Bank of Ghana's capital requirement to enter into measures in order to compete favorably and ensure sanity in the banking sector. This was after it met the governor of the Bank of Ghana. Responding to the advice given by the Council of State, banking consultant Dr. Richmond Ituahene warns that measures can be detrimental if not carefully considered. Banks, he said, cannot merge just to meet minimum capital requirements. They must instead carefully examine their structures and vision before entering into measures because their vision can easily be derailed.
Measures are good, but we have to tread cautiously because business models are different, cultures are different. Values are different. We need to look at the values, the culture, and the business model before we can talk about measures. Because there's an empirical evidence that some measures have failed.
Management and financial consultant Jonathan Prince Khan was of the view that the capital adequacy requirement should be revised downward for smaller banks based on the scale of their activities and transactions.
For example, if I'm into retail banking or SME lending or something of that nature, then this is the ceiling that I need to have as capitalization. But if I want to add on mortgage banking, or I want to do corporate loans, oil and gas, this and so on, then the question is I should raise my capital up to a certain ceiling.
Bank of Ghana is advising players in the banking sector to suspend the payment of profits to their shareholders. This, according to officials of the central bank, will enable banks to position themselves appropriately to meet the deadline of the minimum capital requirement.
So still in the news, a group of Uber drivers are protesting the 25% charge by the transport company. Now, you will recall that last week, these same drivers were involved in the protest. So now let's now go on the line and speak with an Uber driver, Ishmael Oku. Hello, Ishmael, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. So Uber is voluntary. You're a driver. You can opt out, can't you?
Yes, I am.
So why are you protesting if they are charging 25%?
Well, let me clear the airways. We are not ignorant of the terms and conditions that Uber is giving us. Okay. Now, we are driving in this country. Uber is an online app, and we signed on to it. We are aware of that. We are aware of everything that the media will be asking us about, some of the questions. But what we are saying here is that the terms and conditions that Uber is giving to us need a review, because Uber addresses every driver as a partner, not a worker. A partner. So if I am a partner, then there are some issues in your terms and conditions that need a review, and you have to discuss with your partner.
And these terms and conditions, you would say, includes a 25% charge. You want it reduced?
Yes, we want all those to be reviewed, because they stated in their terms and conditions that at any time they can introduce what they call discounts. But then we are saying that if you recognize us as partners, it is affecting us. Therefore, we are calling for a review. But for us it stands now, we are all single, or let me say individual drivers. And so the meeting we are having here is not a demonstration. It is to organize ourselves, come together as one unit, because in the terms and conditions of Uber, Uber is not going to deal with us as a collective unit. It's going to deal with us as individual units. That is what he calls partner. And we can only call for a review if we come together, all the drivers come together and form an alliance or an association.
So have you received any response from Uber yet regarding this?
No, we have not. The first one we had, there was what they did was they took off the discount that we protested. They took it off their system. So it means that they are aware, they have received our message. But then we are calling for a review. So the only way we can sit down, this has a lot of legal issues. When you compare their terms and conditions against the Ghana labor law, there are so many flaws that Uber falls under. And so we are calling for review, that they should come down and sit down with us. But we can only do this if we are united, if we are unified as one body. as an association. And so the meeting we are having here is to form an association, not a strike, not a demonstration.
Ishmael, thank you very much for speaking to us, and good luck on your quest there. So that was Ishmael Oku. He is an Uber driver, and together with some colleagues, they are protesting the 25% charge that the transport company is charging. You're watching Midday Live on TV3, and now on to MTN Video Reports, and Mohammed A. Al-Hassan reports on filth that has been uncollected, or that has not been collected for 15 days behind the Ministry of Education.
I'm rightly behind the Ministry of Education. This refuse has been here since the 17th, and today is the 2nd of May. 15 days later, that's exactly 2 weeks and a day. It has still not been collected. The stench here is unbearable. The refuse has not been collected since the 17th of April 2018. Exactly 15 days today. Citizen journalist Mohammed Al-Hassan, Ministry of Education, Accra.
Also, you can also send your video reports via WhatsApp number 055-1433-044, 055-1433-044. You're still watching Midday Live on TV3. Stay with us. When we return, sports.
Everything you need to know. Captivating. Reliable. Credible and breaking news. All at your fingertips.
Who's found Asamoah Gyan? Super finish!
Being on top of the news has never been easy. Visit us at www.3news.com for all your reliable news. 3 News, news at your fingertips.
To every story, there's a deeper meaning, a host of angles, which, when reported with the highest ethics of journalism, bring out the perspectives that matters most to you. That's what News 360 is all about. I seek to climb higher, dig deeper, and go further to bring you 360 degrees of the news and what happens thereafter. I'm Natalie Fort. Join me on News 360 every weekday at 7 p.m.
Jordan Ayew now with a chip. Jimmy Butler and a foul. Right out of the timeout. Jimmy Butler attacks the rim. Oh, what a shot. That is absolute.
Rinko. Bolt going very near. Comes Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt storming through. He takes it again. Blake.
Sports Station shows every Monday at 9 p.m. on TV3 and is brought to you by Betway and Nescafe Blood Tonic from Ernest Chemist. Sports News segment is brought to you by Cowbell.
Hello, good afternoon. It's time to do sports here on Midday Live. My name is Yao Ofosu Labi. Now to our very first story. A new WBO World Super Bantamweight champion, Isaac the Royal Storm Dogbe, arrived home to a hero's welcome full of emotions for his achievements. That was the atmosphere that greeted the champion on his arrival to Ghana. Dogbe floored Jesse Magdaleno in the 11th round of the WBO Super Bantamweight title challenge to win the title for the very first time at a young age of 23. On his arrival at the Kotoka International Airport last night, the champion was proud to have won it for his country and highlighted his father as his backbone.
The Ghanaian, the people, the nation, they wanted it so badly, and God has heard their prayers. It wasn't a difficult fight for me. You know, the only thing that I have to say a big thank you to my father and the team that was around me is, you know, for the fact that they kept me motivated. You know, in a time when you have to appreciate Smack Delano for, you know, for being a great champion. You know, his reign is over now. I believe that it's time. This is it's a moment for the whole nation to celebrate. You know, it was a great fight. Just he's a great fighter. Can't take nothing away from him. I know that he's gonna come back. He's gonna come back. Yeah.
Isaac's father, Paul, quit his day job in the military to help his son attain boxing preeminence in the WBO region and says he has never doubted his boy's prowess in the ring.
It's not been easy. It's been a long road. For some reason, I knew that, you know, Isaac could make it because, as you know, he went to the Olympics at the age of 17, you know, and then and now he's now the young, 23 years old, youngest champion in Ghana, Africa now. I'm just lost of words. All I can say is I thank you guys, you know, for making this happen.
It has been a long-standing debate for quite some time now. Which sport has Ghana been the most successful in between football and boxing? Many fans of either sports have argued for the sports they love, but President of the Ghana Boxing Association, Peter Zwenes, says for all boxing has done for Ghana, producing so many world champions and all, it has to be the most successful sport in the country.
Forget about those doubters and those who have labeled as lesser sports as against soccer. From the days of DK Poison to Nanaya Okunedu, Azuma Nelson, Ike Quote, Joshua Clote, Alfred Cote, Joseph Agbeko, we've made it. We have always had that place. We are the ones who have put this nation on the sporting map, and we are going to do it again. Earlier this year, I predicted that this was the year for us. We're going to produce 3 world champions. This is the first of many to come. I told you that Isaac Dogbe was going to lead the charge to produce a world champion for us, and he's done it in grand style.
Well, away from boxing now, let's shift focus to football. And the Ghana Premier League Week 11 begins today across all league centres in the country. Now, after beating Kumasi Asante Kotoko, Accra Hearts of Oak will be at home against struggling side Liberty Professionals, and Karela will also entertain Kumasi Asante Kotoko as the Porcupine Warriors are aiming to bounce back from their shock 1-0 defeat in Kumasi against Accra Hearts of Oak. So as you can see there, Karela Football Club against Kumasi Asante Kotoko. Bechem United will be at home and they'll be taking on Elmina Sharks Football Club. Ashanti Gold will also be at the Linkley Stadium taking on 11 Wonders. Ebusua Dwarfs, the club that have not, things haven't gone too well for Ebusua Dwarfs at the moment, and they'll be taking on Mediama SC. Brekum Chelsea against Wafa, who also won by 5-0 against Dreams FC over the weekend. And Hearts of Oak beats Asante Kotoko to move them up into the top half of the table, and they take on Liberty Professionals, the under fire Liberty Professionals, later today at the Cape Coast Stadium. Wow Stars will also take on Adriana Stars Football Club, and Dreams FC will be at home at the Theatre of Dreams playing Inter Allies Football Club. Now let's switch to European football, and the other semi-final game in the UEFA Champions League where Liverpool will play against AS Roma.
That's deployed to assist the investigations. The charge came in a confidential note by the United Nations Department of Political Affairs that was dated April 18 and circulated among Security Council members on the progress of a team of experts sent to Congo in November by United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres to support Congolese officials' investigation into the killings. UN sanctions monitors Zayda Catalan, a Swede, and Michael Sharp, an American, were killed in March 2017 in the central Kasai region while investigating violence there between government forces and a local militia. The note said that a team led by Canadian lawyer Robert Petit attempted to develop a productive working relationship with the DRC prosecuting and national authorities, but has faced difficulties in gaining full cooperation. Congolese officials say they are determined to bring to justice the perpetrators. They have blamed the killings on the Kamwina Insapu militia, which rose up in August 2016 after government forces killed a local chief who had demanded that they withdraw from Kasai. Now, Nigeria has announced a ban on the production and import of cough syrup containing codeine after a BBC investigation into its role in the addiction epidemic. A health ministry spokesman told the BBC remaining stock in shops could be sold with a prescription. The BBC investigation showed the syrup being sold on the black market to be used by young Nigerians to get high. It recorded a number of pharmaceutical figures selling the drug illegally. The joint probe by the BBC's new investigation unit, Africa Eye, and BBC Pidgin prompted a swift response from people across the country, including Nigeria's First Lady Aisha Buhari, who said in an Instagram post she was deeply saddened by the rise of the problem, especially in the north of Nigeria. However, Olajide Oshundun, the Ministry of Health's Assistant Director of Information, said the ban was a result of months of work by a committee which submitted a report into the widespread abuse of the medication on Tuesday. Oshundun said while existing stocks could be sold, manufacturers in Nigeria have been told by federal government not to use codeine in cough syrup. The cough syrup was legal, but it was against the law to sell it to people without a doctor's prescription or those who did not have a pharmaceutical license. The Nigerian Senate estimates that as many as 3 million bottles of codeine syrup are drunk every single day in just 2 states, Kano and Jigawa. Up next is entertainment news.
There are lots of amazing stories out there. What we do on News 360 is to bring to you the most compelling news by teasing out the right pieces that bring the stories to life. My job is to present to you the news in the most gripping manner and asking the critical questions that bring out the needed detail out of the stories. My name is Alfred Okanse. Join me on News 360. Monday through to Friday, 7 p.m. on air and online only on TV3.
Hello, welcome to News at 10. We're live from our studios here at Adisawi.
When you miss News 360 at 7 p.m. because of a busy schedule, we'll serve you again with a smart recap tonight at 10 p.m. with a detailed dissection of the major news of the day so you are never left behind.
They punched my face, used the gun to hit my wrist.
News at 10. News with a broader perspective.
My name is Stephen Enti. See you tonight at 10.
The essence of a good morning show on radio is to inform you, challenge you into critical analysis of relevant issues, and definitely induce you to act and contribute constructively towards the nation's development agenda. This is what Sunrise on 3FM 92.7 is all about. I am Winston Amwa, your host on Sunrise. My conviction remains the same, that the media agenda must not only translate into the public agenda, but a policy agenda. Serve yourself with the most intellectually stimulating breakfast in Accra every weekday morning from 5:55 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on 3FM 92.7, where the discussion is always fair and square.
This is how you take on the world. This is where you connect to the nation.
We are ready to take over and thrive.
But is that the case?
Red Sea for them to gain communications.
This is what reliable news is all about. And this is where it all begins. This is who we are.
I am Solis Rose Korte.
I am Isamon.
I am Natalie Fort.
My name is Alfred Okamsing.
News 360 every night, 7 p.m. only on TV3.
In entertainment news this afternoon, award-winning Fanti rapper and composer Kofi Kinata has urged the youth to value their lives and not take unnecessary risk in chasing non-existent greener pastures. The latest song, No Place Like Home, done in partnership with the International Organization for Migration, educates the youth about the dangers associated with stowing away.
Kofi Kinata is the UN Migration Agency First Goodwill Ambassador. His role is to promote safe migration and support IOM Ghana's Aware Migration Information Campaign through the release of songs. But how did his career journey start?
I'm based in Takoradi. I started music in Takoradi. I was doing rap for fun, like just rapping for fun's sake. I would do 1 or 3 freestyles for my friends. They would just say, "Oh, you are good," and that was it. I didn't plan to take it further till a friend took me to the studio, and it started from there. I went for a Kasahari show. I was the first runner-up, and I got some 1 or 2 handful of fans, and I decided not to stop because they would be disappointed. So I started doing music, and yeah, man.
Well, the Fanti rapper has kick-started his ambassadorial role with the release of anti-stowaway music video, No Place Like Home. Stowaway, the practice of hiding in a ship to illegally travel, has claimed many lives in Kofi Kinata's home region, the Western region.
Over 5,000 people they die for sea top Africa, Ghana, man for wake up in Obra, Obokoda, on your Walantino Topa, Kakakakra, baby Aliha, Dada swear while I tell you we want the worry for money, baby Andre, if you buy Kasania Bugatti.
I had a call from the IOM people. They wanted me to help the advocacy activities. And I didn't hesitate to join because I've seen it all, if not, like I've seen some, if not all. Because I come from Takoradi and I have friends who try to travel with this regular means. So it wasn't anything new. It was a dream to publicize such like advocacy. So I decided to join them.
No Place Like Home seeks to educate the youth about the dangers associated with the journey across the Sahara Desert and the Mediterranean Sea to reach North Africa and Europe.
So we see some changes so that people stop, or if not stop drastically, but we see some changes there. We can relax a little bit. Yeah. But for now, we are not stopping because like people are still embarking on such dangerous journey. So we are still preaching.
Water on the hot desert, they beat, more treat, there's some, they rape some. I hear say recently they sell some over 5.
And of course, there's also no place like TV3. Thank you so much for joining us for Midday Live. It's been a pleasure having you. My name is Efua Tiekula. Enjoy the rest of our programs.